Interactive Wrestling Radio, WrestlingEpicenter.com, the interactive interview, and all other entities associated with this website would like to dedicate this edition of Interactive Wrestling Radio to the memory of Mike Graham. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Welcome to another edition of Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the interactive interview right here on WrestlingEpicenter.com, as we are being joined on the Newsmaker line by an up-and-coming wrestling superstar, the one and only Bronze God, Lenox Norris. Lenox, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Great, sir. Well, we've seen you working the independent scene for a little while now, and I know we've reported on you on our website from time to time. And I guess the first question I have for you is, how did you get involved in this crazy, insane wrestling business?
Well, at first I wasn't going to, but I caught the bug. Even though I was a Lifetime fan, I wasn't going to. But when I saw a show in Mississippi at one of the casinos, they had a casino show in Mississippi, and I saw Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee in the main event, and the wrestling bug bit me. And I went ahead and just said, let me just make a go with this. And I was going to try to train at the Power Pro Wrestling promotion.
Really?
I couldn't get a hold of anybody down in Memphis. So I eventually tried some schools in Ohio. Tried a school in Ohio, actually. Got a free tryout. Wrestled there for a couple of years and came down to OVW in Louisville for a tryout, and I've been going at it ever since.
Very good, very good. What school in Ohio did you end up going to?
It was the International Wrestling Alliance, and I was trained by Bull Miller.
Bull Miller, very good, very good. And then you've been off and on with OVW for a while now. And how is things at OVW? And are you looking to get back in there, or are you trying to branch outwards now?
Well, now I've been trying to branch outwards. Wrestling in OVW was actually, it was great. I had a great time when I first got there initially in '05, when when WWE was still doing developmental there. And, some of the developmental guys were pretty cool. And then, there was a couple of guys that happened to star in ROH, one being Nigel McGuinness. He took me under his wing for a bit. And, before he left and started wrestling for Ring of Honor. Paul Heyman was really good to work with,
Paul Heyman,
as well as Greg Gagne and Robert Gibson. They were really good to work with. And Al Snow, when I came back in 2011, him and Jim Cornette were very instrumental. They really helped me out. And sometimes when I talk to some of the guys elsewhere, in fact, I actually use some of their advice to me, to some of the younger guys that are coming in.
Very cool. Yeah, I got to take a step back. You mentioned that I've been trying to go over it in my head, and you mentioned it was Bill Dundee and Jerry Lawler in the main event. What year are we talking about here?
Well, it was back in around 1999, actually.
Wow. Okay, cool. So you've been at it for a while now. You're by no means a rookie.
Not at all. Not at all whatsoever.
Very cool. And you mentioned Jim Cornette, and Cornette is actually just left Ring of Honor, but I heard a little bit of rumblings that your goal is to try to get to ROH. Is that still something that you're trying to make happen?
Yes, it is. I'm going to be trying out hopefully in a month or two, and I'm looking to make an impression there and hoping it goes well. I believe it can. But we'll have to see when it happens. I'm going to take it a day at a time, prepare, as the day approaches. And when it comes, I believe I'll be ready.
Absolutely. Now, you've seen a lot of guys from OVW, from where you've trained and worked for years, have been getting opportunities down at TNA, as it's now their training facility, with the gut checks and things like that. And how do you like the concept of guys getting chances on TV in that sense? Do you think that it's going to expose them a lot? And if the call came through to give you that kind of shot, would it be something you'd be willing to jump at?
I'll be ready. I'll be ready to do it if they called me. There's at least a couple other guys who should be already called up there. Some of the guys, a bunch of them who I've trained with, and they're really, really good. One of them is Jamin Olivencia, and I've been in the ring with him, and he's an awesome worker with a ton of charisma. And Paradise, he's another one who, Adam Revolver, Ted McNaylor, all those guys in OVW, they can go, and if they got a chance, they would steal it. I guarantee it.
Very cool, very cool. What would you say I've seen your work, and you've seen our reports on the website that we've discussed it, but if you were to compare yourself to some of the workers that we've seen in the past, some of the legends, if you will, who have you kind of tried to emulate the most from?
Well, one of my favorites who I've wanted to emulate was Shawn Michaels. That was one of my influences.
I do see that, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
so
Shawn Michaels was actually one of my favorites. I followed his whole career, and some of my moves, even some of the movements I would do are kind of, reminiscent. Well, I wanted to pair myself after him with some of my movements.
Very cool. Anybody else?
Huge influence.
Very cool. Anybody else as an influence as well, or do you find yourself mostly related to Shawn Michaels in terms of the way you're working?
Another influence would be Too Cold Scorpio.
Really?
And
you had the opportunity to meet Too Cold?
I have, when he came to OVW for a brief time when they were still with developmental in WWE. He was helping some of the younger guys out.
See, I was kind of hoping you were going to say that, because I do see a lot of influence there from Too Cold as well as Shawn Michaels. I do see a lot of Too Cold in you. But yeah, I mean, that he's a guy that really never gets the credit for being the great high flyer that he was in an era where that wasn't really done. So, I mean, he really brought a lot of those high-flying maneuvers to the mainstream of American soil, if nothing else. And, of course, Shawn Michaels built on that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
I was saying I'm sorry. I was about to interrupt. I didn't mean to, though.
No problem. Go ahead.
I was going to say, people have been comparing me to Scorpio. They say I look like him. And I don't do near the high-flying maneuvers that he does.
True.
I guess only in looks alone, I've been compared to Scorpio a couple of times. I think the way I would move a little bit and the way I look, my look has, drawn some comparisons.
Absolutely. Now, we talked a little bit about, OVW, and I know you've done some work for HWA. Actually, on the show, a few moments ago, we were talking about HWA. Who's actually in charge of HWA now? Because I know Les Thatcher, I said to you on Facebook, how's Les doing? And I don't think you responded to that, because I found out that Les Thatcher's not actually running it anymore. So who's actually running HWA these days?
Right now, it's Tim Taylor.
Really?
Yes. He's
cool.
running HWA now.
And how's everything?
Sold it years ago.
Yeah, they bought that many years ago. I found out. I guess I was a little bit behind the times. How is everything going on in Heartland?
Actually, it's still going strong, surprisingly. They've been working with CZW a whole bunch.
That's a big jump, Heartland to CZW, because CZW has the reputation of being a much more hardcore, maybe not quite as much now as in the previous years, but a much more hardcore style, to say the least.
Yeah, now they've
evolved.
toned it down a little bit. Yeah, they've evolved a bit, and what they've been doing more so is they've been gearing more towards athletic competition.
Which I think it had to. I think that wrestling had reached a level. I mean, I have quite a bit of CZW stuff from the years, but there gets to be times when you're watching it and the hardcore stuff just reaches a level when it just kind of turns your stomach. As a worker yourself, do you think that you think that hardcore kind of went too far? And what do you think of the turn that I think you could pretty much credit Ring of Honor for? Of in the 90s, you had the revolution of ECW, of extreme, 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 and then in the 2000s, ROH brought in the revolution of pure wrestling, and now we're kind of seeing that emulated onto both TNA and WWE television. What do you think of the change, and how has it affected your style since you started, when it was still going more towards the hardcore route?
Well, to me, it didn't really affect. I didn't really see it as much of a influence on me because I didn't see myself doing hardcore. For me, like I have to say this, hardcore wrestling, the way it originated in my mind, like when I used to watch wrestling as a kid, was, doing it for the sake of just doing it. To me, it doesn't do anything for me. So, you have two guys in the storyline, and they can't solve an issue in a regular match. Then
right.
You go on to the next match, and there's a specialty there. They can't solve it then, so you got a cage match. They don't solve it. They don't solve the issue then. They have to resolve it in a barbed wire match.
There you go.
So when you build it, that's how hardcore wrestling was supposed to be, where you build. You're supposed to settle an issue between two competitors, and just having it for the sake of having it, just to throw it in.
Yeah.
To me, that's where it kind of lost its meaning to me. So,
exactly.
People have asked me recently if I wanted to do. I'm sorry, I got on the roll, but people ask me if I want to do hardcore. I tell them, well, I'm not going to do it unless there's got to be a storyline. It can't just have bleeding just to bleed. To me, it takes away the meaning of it. I don't like doing stuff, right? For nothing. So.
Absolutely, and
that's my personal take on it.
Absolutely, and I completely agree with you. It was very much shock value, I think, it was used for, unfortunately. But I give credit to TNA recently. The most hardcore match I've seen in recent memory was the match at Bound for Glory with James Storm and Bobby Roode, and that was really, really hardcore. But it wasn't just hardcore for the sake of hardcore. Like you said, it was the blow-off to a year-long story, and it led up to that. So I think that, I had to justify it to some people, as you can imagine, when you have to justify things to other wrestling fans who have opinions. But I think that if you're going to justify it, if you're going to put something on there that is that violent, you do have to have the backstory to make it make sense. Otherwise, you're just watching a couple guys just create carnage rather than put on any kind of story.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's they've had a year-long feud after their split, and if they just got thrown in there just to fill in the spot to do that, then they weren't going to get the reaction that they were going to get. They were going to get a short-term reaction, and it wasn't going to mean much. Like, they probably would barely mention it the next Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Because they'd have to mention it, of course, but it wouldn't be as much of a. It wouldn't mean much.
Exactly.
It would just probably get, it was a good match between those two, and that was about it. But they had more to talk about, and then they was able to talk about the backstory. The whole history of them being together as a tag team, how they split, how Rude screwed them over for the title.
Exactly, yeah. The only thing
it wasn't done for nothing.
Exactly. Now, we've talked a little bit about, where you've been and where you're hoping to head, and I guess where do you see yourself in the next couple of years? Because you're coming into the business, you're now a veteran of sorts on the independent scene. Certainly, you've been around a few years now, and you are unfortunately in a time in wrestling when there's not as many places to go to get the exposure that you need because of the closure of WCW and ECW from 11 years ago. So now, is it harder, do you think, for guys of your generation to get the opportunities that you're working hard to get because there's just so few slots out there to really showcase yourself?
Well, you have to just work a little bit harder and just have that mindset that that's where you want to go. and you can't really discourage yourself from getting to that, to that same goal. That's the only thing. You just have to work a lot harder, that's all. And you have to have a lot more patience because there are so many spots, and you have to believe in yourself that that's, what's going to happen for you, and do what you got to do to get there. So it kind of I was coming in at the tail end of ECW when it was starting to close in WCW, and it was a bit discouraging, a little bit disheartening, but I just if you want to stay in the business or in life in general, you have to adjust. You have to adjust some of the back steps. Sometimes you have to adjust the stepping back before you can step forward.
That's exactly
so it's all about readjusting your mindset.
Exactly, and like we said about Gut Check, you're in much the same boat as a Joey Ryan, where he started when there still was ECW and there still was WCW, and there was places to go, and unfortunately for both of you guys, those doors closed in a hurry when you guys first started. So hopefully we'll get the opportunity to see you get some exposure on a national scale. And I got to tell you, you've been such a nice guy, and I've been horrible to you. Like I leave. Sometimes I don't get a chance to respond. I always try to make sure I respond to you, but I usually don't get a chance to do it until the next day. And you're such a nice guy. I do wish you the absolute best, and do keep in contact so we can help you out in any way we can.
I will, and I forgive you.
You forgive me? All right, man. Well, I got to tell you, it's really great talking to you. And anytime you want to come on to talk about anything that you have going on or anything in mind, just come on. We don't have to do the biographical interview. If you want to come on to talk about something that's on your mind or something that's bothering you, you're always welcome to come on and vent, because we always welcome you. And like I said, my buddy who does the show with me, I have two buddies who do the show with me, Nick Knoll and Patrick Kelly. Nick Knoll has reported on many of your matches over the past couple of years, and we'd all love to have you on anytime you want to come on.
Oh, thank you. There's a few promotions if people want to see footage of me on. Mm-hmm. If they want to see me on YouTube, I'm wrestling currently in Southern Indiana for Destination One Wrestling in Southern Indiana, and of course HWA in Cincinnati. And then there's also Pro Wrestling Freedom in Corbin, Kentucky, which is going to be on iPay-per-view next week.
Really?
And
are you going to be part of that pay-per-view?
Huh?
Are you going to be on that?
Yes, I am.
Very cool. And who are you going to be facing?
I'm going to wrestle a guy named the Hood Ninja Isaiah, and we had a match that stole the show. Vader was in the main event against Madman Pondo, and from what I was told, we had match of the night.
Vader was in the main event against Madman Pondo. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You guys stole the show with match of the night. Wow. Very cool, man. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that. And what's the website for that one?
The website is Pro Wrestling. What's that?
I said I'm putting it in the spot. Most of the time people don't know the URL of the site.
Okay. It's ProWrestlingFreedom.com.
Very cool. All right. I'll make sure.
I'm sorry. It's also the order the iPay-per-view will be on the World Wrestling Network. So it'll be WWNLive.com.
Very cool. All right, man. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm looking forward to seeing this match that stole the show. And I got to get your opinion, since you mentioned Vader, before I let you go. Honest opinion, when you heard the story about Harley Race popping Vader, what was your first thought?
I'm not surprised.
Have a little problem with Mr. Vader?
I don't. I actually got along with him. A lot of people in the locker room, they didn't like him. They thought he was a bit abrasive. But to me, he was cool. Everything was cool with me. He was all right. There was a time when he, well, there was a lot of stuff that it got on people's nerves there that night. But to me, he was cool. He was cool with me and a couple other guys. Even let one guy see his old Vader helmet.
Oh, wow.
And shoulder pads. That was awesome to look at. He held it in this big box in the dressing room. It was cool. But Yeah, a lot of people didn't like him. I did. He ain't. Some of the guys that were, that could be assholes in the business, I never got to see that side of them because I would speak to them. I wouldn't talk their heads off. I'd speak to them, introduce myself, go about my own way because I had my own stuff I needed to do, and that was it. So I didn't see the asshole part of any of those guys. If they were assholes, I never saw it.
You know what? And that's what people said. I had people who warned me about doing an interview with him, and I did a really good interview with him. The only thing he was miffed about is I said it would go a half hour, and it went 39 minutes, and he took me to my word. He wanted it to go 30 minutes. He did get ticked about that, but I gave him a bunch of DVDs of his career, and he was happy with me. So thankfully Vader won't be on my doorstep waiting to beat me up anytime soon. But, I just laughed. I laughed myself silly just thinking about Harley Race getting up because I don't care what age he's at. I do not want the wrath of that guy because he is a legend, and I think he still is a badass. So I would not want to mess with Harley Race at any age.
He can still give you the fear of Harley. He sure can.
Absolutely. Well, man, like I said, if people want to catch up with you, where can they catch you up? I don't know if anybody still uses it, but I did see your MySpace page earlier. I do know that you're on Facebook. Is there any other places where they can catch up on you?
Nothing yet. I've avoided Twitter for a bit, but I might get one soon. I'm not sure. But for now, it's just Facebook. It's pretty much just going to be Facebook. If you want to see my pictures, if you want to see your pictures of me, you might see me on ProWrestlingFreedom.com. D1W, Destination 1, doesn't have a definitive site yet. They're working on it. They've been in the works, for a while, and it's coming soon. HWA, you know what theirs is. It's HWAonline.com.
This is Vince Russo, and you're listening to the Interactive Interview.
Hey, this is Chris Jericho of Fozzy, and you're listening to the Interactive Interview. And remember, we are huge rock stars.
And now, the debut of the average wrestling fan as viewed by society and, unfortunately, the powers that be of the top wrestling promotions.
Hello, everybody. It's me, the average wrestling fan, finally joining the interweb generation. I wouldn't have ever joined if the WWE wasn't suddenly so interested in the Twitter and the Flickr and the YouTube and the My Face You book thing and all that stuff. I never had it before because I lived in a Stone Age. That's where us wrestling fans live, in the Stone Age. But now we're in the internet age. So here I am. I thought we could start out by reviewing Raw from the other night. When John Cena headed out to the ring and said, Hey, I'm a Giants fan. I'm from Boston, and I'm a Giants fan. That's how I roll. I like what you like. Comes out and says, I'm a Giants fan. Hey, forget about the last 2 Super Bowls you beat us. How cool is it to see Big Blue? Who's my favorite team? The Bears. Then you got the crazy chick comes out and says, I'm losing my job because I used to be homeless and now I'm fraternizing. Now, I thought homeless chicks from Jersey got jobs by fraternizing, but apparently now they lose them. Now, the first match of the night with the guys they call the Road Scholars, who think I'm stupid because I'm a wrestling fan, against the guys that I call the Dream Act, the 2 Mexican guys in the masks. Gosh, you think it's a wrestling show or something? I want to see 2 guys talking with microphones in their hands and nobody hitting each other. Instead, we got the Ziggles in there with the goat head. 3 segments. What they wasting my time on over here? All in all, I like the show a great deal because I was told it was good. And if they say on the announce table this is one of the best shows ever, it means it is one of the best shows ever, because why would they lie? I don't know. Do you think they lie? I don't think they lie. This is the average wrestling fan in your mind and mine. Have a good day.
Hey, this is the Queen of Extreme, Francine, and you are listening to the Interactive Interview.
This just in. From the news center here at WrestlingEpicenter.com, WWE's Feed Me More storyline for the superstar Ryback has been linked to an upcoming promotional ad with the buffet chain Golden Corral. For more information...
Yeah, you know what? Next time I go to an all-you-can-eat buffet, I'm going to walk around and stomp around the way Ryback does when he delivers the shell shock. I'm going to stomp around the place going, feed me more. Well, but you should be doing that, holding a knife and fork in my hands and just stomping around the Golden Corral, just going, feed me more.
Well, apparently, that is actually based on his real-life personality. There's like a video on YouTube of Al Snow talking about this guy when he was in that $1 Million Tough Enough that gave us The Miz and Daniel Puder, just saying, yeah, this guy will... Yeah, he was in that. So this guy's been... But basically he goes, it's the strangest damn thing. This guy will start eating wings and he'll break out in a sweat. And I'm like, Ryan, did you get the hot ones? Like, no, I got mild. He's like literally breaking a sweat because he's putting so much effort into eating. There's another story where apparently he was eating a Rice Krispie treat, and Bill DeMont just said, Ryback or Ryan, you just fucking ate. Put it down, goddammit. I'm hungry. No, put it down. Then DeMont smacks him in the face. His response was to actually get up and get on like the moving sidewalk that they have at the airports and just eat like the Rice Krispie treat as he rode that away from Bill DeMont, who was trying to smack him again.
Jesus. It was an eating machine.
Yeah, apparently, like...
It sounds like some kind of scene out of the Goonies.
Yeah. Apparently it gets even worse because I guess, like, it's one of the things they got to do doing that was they went to, like, something with, like, Penthouse Magazine, and all he kept complaining about was how he was hungry, and Al Snow said, you know what, after this we'll go to Cracker Barrel. I was like, oh, boy, I've never been to a Cracker Barrel before. It's like, we're at something for Penthouse Magazine, and all this guy is concentrating on his fucking Cracker Barrel.
Have you ever been to a Cracker Barrel? They're pretty sweet. Although the name is very apt, if I might say so myself, as a Caucasian male.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I got to be honest. Last time I was in there, I ordered my food, and it never came. It just was, I was waiting there for so long, so I ended up walking out. But the times there that I've actually been served, I love their food. Oh, yeah. It's very, very, very delicious.
Yes, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who cannot tell, we are actually now sponsored here on Wrestling Epicenter. We're sponsored now by Yum Foods, which owns both Cracker Barrel and Golden Corral. So we also have to work in a plug for KFC and Pizza Hut before we're done.
Oh, absolutely. I just ate Pizza Hut tonight, actually.
Pizza Hut's good. Have you had the pizza rollers? Are they any good?
No, I haven't. I just had pepperoni pizza.
Okay.
All right. We have completely, we have not even started talking, really doing the show, and we are so fucking lost.
I have one final question.
We're paying our advertisers, just like that scene in Wayne's World. But people only do things just so they get paid. That's just really sad.
Last question here, and this is legitimately about KFC. Do you guys feel it is appropriate food to take on a picnic? A bucket of
chicken, of course it is.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's fine.
That I won't elaborate. I'll just say thank you.
Okay. I think we just settled, or we either settled the marital dispute or we just made it worse.
Or
one or the other. The first picnic I took her on, I made a couple sandwiches and I got a bucket of KFC, and I later, like 2 years later, had to hear in one of those like throwing random wild punches things. And who brings chicken to a picnic anyway? I'm like, it's KFC. You could take it on a picnic.
Oh my God.
That's why I'm not married.
I've got plenty of reasons for not being married, and most of them have to do with me.
All right. Well,
that can't be. If I'm married, no male has an excuse based on their own problems.
All right, well,
okay. Anyways, we got from Ryback to talking about marital problems. So yeah, back to wrestling. What are we talking about now?
well, Patrick, you apparently feel that Raw was.
Yeah, go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
Well, I was just saying, Patrick apparently told James, who told me, that you thought Raw was one of the worst in recent memory. Now that's really saying
it was
something.
Stunningly bad.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding. It was stunningly bad. Like, I was in shock at how bad it was. And, you know, I'm not going to say it's the worst Raw of the year. I still think that goes to the one where John Cena fought Michael Cole in the main event because, you know, that needed to happen. But it just, you know, a lot of the same problems. It's on for too long. The 3 hours is just killing the show because it just drags on forever. That's a major problem. But that's a problem with all the recent shows. Where this one really flew off the handle and just became a train wreck was this whole angle that they did with AJ Lee having to step down for having an affair with a WWE superstar, although, I mean, my God, how many authority figures in the last decade have had affairs with who, God knows what? I mean, that's been a standard angle for God knows how long, but whatever. And then they turn around and replace her with Vicky Guerrero, who is horrible, by the way, a terrible performer that does not belong on television at all. But the last time she was an authority figure, she had an affair with the WWE champion and favored him, married him, and then cheated on him with another WWE superstar, and she's currently in a relationship with a WWE superstar. So this doesn't make any sense. Forget the fact that I completely hate bullshit angles where, oh, who's in charge of the show now? I want to be in charge of the show. No, I'm in charge of the show. I mean, those are bullshit in and of itself, but this just makes no goddamn sense at all whatsoever.
Well, that's
and by the way, it's a rip-off of a shitty angle that TNA did earlier this year with Dixie Carter and AJ Styles. I mean, it's like, of all the things you can rip off from other companies, you're really going to borrow that?
Oh, my God. If Claire Lynch shows up in the WWE, I cannot wait to see. I cannot.
An infomercial chick. I saw her the other night. She was on some late-night infomercial thing. She was blonde, I think. But I saw her the other night, like, where do I know her from? That's her! That's her! That's what she's apparently known for. I did Google it. Apparently, the way she got into TNA is she's some kind of infomercial chick.
Yeah,
she also moonlight. She was also olive oil at the Popeye ride at Universal Studios.
Really?
Yeah.
So it was a short trip to work for her.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, apparently, though, I cannot wait until she shows up in WWE, and then the Mike Johnsons, the Jason Powell, the David Metzlers of the world can praise how great and how original the writing is.
They're morons. I mean, there's no, you know, I'm not going to defend TNA for that angle because it was horrible, all of it, and I hated it, and there was no payoff. I was like, the fact that they just kind of dropped it made me. I mean, there was an ending, but it was kind of like a quick resolution. Let's just end this now because we have nowhere else to go with this. Of course, Claire Lynch walked out on them. So
the ending was, hey, let's find a chick that looks like the old chick that had to go see Robin Williams as Mrs. Doubtfire, and send her out as a legal advisor to say, I wrote this letter, really I did, and I am not actually pregnant, and AJ Styles is a good guy, and I'm going away now. Bye. That's essentially what the end of the angle.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes, though, guys, it's best just to throw in the fucking towel and stop it right in there. Did you really want them to try to convince her to come back to do one more angle where they would clear it all up properly? Or were you
no, not at all. She was awful.
And, well, who knows? Maybe she's a good actress in with better material or something. Or maybe drama just isn't her stick. But you know what? It's over. Thank God. Unfortunately, the WWE, Vicky Guerrero is back in charge, and I am so sick and tired of this woman having any role on the show. I was one of the people that actually defended her when she first came on because I'm like, well, for the amount of experience she has, she's good. But now it's like, you know what, she's not that good. Not now all these years later where let's cut her a break because she's new, excuse has worn off. And, I'm so sick and tired of what I'll call the stupid diva fans that just want to see a woman on the show in any shape and form, so they defend it because, oh, well, at least they're finally featuring a woman in something besides just being a wrestler. It's like, no, you know what, screw it. I'm so sick and tired of this woman having any role on the show. She's horrible. You know what, for the love of God, find another fucking job for her. You know what, I know originally part of the reason she got hired was because Eddie left her financial situation horrible because he had tax problems before he died. But you know what? Enough's enough. Fire her. There's no excuse for her to be on television anymore.
She's going to get the money from Eddie's contract, and I assume that's just what she's doing. She's working out Eddie's. She's just filling out Eddie's contract. But I'm just like, if I was the WWE, just give her the money.
But you know what? It's been 4 years. How long was Eddie signed for last time?
That's a good question. Actually, it's been 7 years.
Yeah. But you know what?
Passed away, which is...
Yeah. And to be perfectly honest, who's to say Eddie would have retired by now anyway? If, God willing, he was alive still, who's to say he wouldn't have walked away like what Chris Jericho does every once in a while, what, a couple other guys have done. So I don't think the excuse, if they are letting her work out Eddie's contract, it's like, you know what, enough's enough. It's been 7 years of her being just wretched and awful, and now we have another, heel authority figure versus rebellious babyface feud, apparently, and it's just going to be and we've already seen these two do this. The only difference is now there is an Edge there to kind of save the angle at times by, being entertaining because he's Edge.
Right, and, it's a tired and stale act. That was, quite honestly, Vicky was just a one-trick pony anyway. Excuse me, that's all she's got. She's got an obnoxious voice. And she was in the ring with Paul Heyman in that same segment, and you really do see the difference in the class of performer between Paul Heyman and Vicky Guerrero. I'm not trying to be sexist. I'm not trying to be anything like that. I'm just saying Paul Heyman on the mic is head and shoulders above, quite honestly, everybody that was in the ring with him, including Vince McMahon.
Oh, absolutely. And here's the thing. Paul Heyman, for all the faults that he has, is a strong performer, and when he needs to be. And he is the perfect example of what the classic manager used to be, able to generate heat for himself and help spread it on to whoever he's associated with, whether that's CM Punk, whether that's Brock Lesnar. He is that classic heel-style manager that is sorely missing from pro wrestling today. And it just amazes me that you have that, and I think, we said it before, enough's enough with, changing the general manager who's running the show. If you go back to it, last year when Punk won the title, pretty much kicked off a whole, every few months they changed who's in charge and went from Vince was the guy running the show to Triple H to Johnny Ace, to then Johnny Ace ran both shows, now to Booker and AJ, now back to, Vicky, and since they make it clear that she's, quote, the managing partner or whatever, or managing supervisor.
They keep making up titles, don't they?
Yeah, it's like they're bringing it back to, and apparently I guess that would mean that they're going to bring in somebody else at some point. It's like, enough's enough. What happened to Jack Tunney or, Gorilla Monsoon back in the day, where, you know what, you might hear their name, but you never saw them except for something really big. I mean, the things I remember Tunney for, stripping Andre of the title and establishing the WrestleMania 4 tournament, stripping Shawn of the IC title. I mean, I can't remember.
Yeah, it was always things like that. It was never, the focus of the show was not around Jack Tunney making matches. I would even go the WCW route, which the WWE kind of has. They just need to work with it, the board of directors. Just let the board of directors make decisions off camera, and they announce them, or the announcers, JR and Michael Cole, announce them throughout the show. There you go. We don't need to dedicate ungodly amount of time to deciding who's running the show and the process of matchmaking. It's television time that doesn't need to be spent.
Yeah, I mean, how many times do we discuss it? Honestly, how many times do we discuss that we accept that Roger Goodell is in control of things and we don't need to know what went through the process of deciding that this coming Monday on Monday Night Football is going to be the Cardinals against the 49ers. We just accept it. There doesn't have to be some bullshit reason that Roger Goodell's wife fucked the owner of the fucking Cardinals or something, and that's why they've got to play the 49ers and get crushed on Monday night in national television and embarrassed.
Well, you know what I want to see? I want to see Roger Goodell and anyone else who, helps set up the NFL schedule. That should be a TV show, them actually making the schedules at the start of the season. It would be wonderful, compelling television. I'd love to see it.
You know what? And the very fact that
sarcastic.
Are you being sarcastic or not? I have no idea.
Yes, very much so.
Good.
Well,
because the very fact that there's an NFL network and they haven't done that in the realm of reality TV as it is now shows you that not even the biggest football fan on the planet that even plays the fantasy leagues, which I just completely do not understand, and all these other kind of things, nobody would be at all interested in watching that because it would be a fucking bore fest.
Oh. From what I understand, there actually is like a mathematical formula they just use. If you play everyone in your conference twice, and then the conferences rotate depending on. So one year AFC South faces NFC North. The next year it's AFC South versus NFC West, and so on and so on. So it actually isn't.
Yeah, there is a pattern. But that would make it even more boring because then it's like, well, you can't get any mileage out of that. It was like, well, there's just the formula, and that's it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
watch the rest.
Getting back to wrestling, another thing that I want to thank Ryan Porzell, who's one of our posters on Facebook. He made a point, and he's absolutely right. Does it seem like we get Sheamus versus Punk one way or another every freaking week?
Yeah, it was. Nobody mentioned it.
I'll be honest, the match this week was shit. I've never said that about a CM Punk match before, but this was not a good match.
Oh, yeah. Well, the problem is, first off, I think lumberjack matches are one of those, I'm going to do a video at some point, stipulation matches that need to be retired forever, and lumberjack matches are right up there because they always become the same thing. The babyface gets pitched out, the heels try to beat him up. The heel gets pitched out, the babyfaces try to beat him up. And these two guys have worked with each other so many different times. On the Wrestler, the latest issue of Inside Wrestler, or one of the After mags, the cover story was Aries versus Punk. Who would win this TNA WWE Dream match? And it was scripting what would happen if WWE and TNA ever got together and decided to have the champion versus champion. Now, of course, this was written before Bound for Glory, but it was an interesting concept.
Right.
Ideally, the WWE has that potential because it has two separate world champions. But they, A, book the World Heavyweight Championship like a mid-card title, and B, they do it almost every week that the WWE champion versus the World Heavyweight champion means absolutely nothing. I mean, it's just this again. Ideally, you're
they either need to get rid of the world title or they need to unify those belts ASAP because there's no reason for there to be a second world title. None.
If I were booking WWE right now, I would have Punk drop the title, Rock wins it at Mania, Punk somehow wins the World Heavyweight title, enters the Royal Rumble, wins there and says, okay, it's going to be you and me. We're going to unify these belts, and then I'm going to show once and for all I'm the best in the world, and I'm finally going to get the pleasure of beating The Rock up. 1, 2, 3, someone's the unified world champion. Done. Good. It's we'll never get that because they're convinced having two belts means more, even though they do nothing to make it mean anything.
I think it devalues the meaning of being a world champion if you have another guy running around claiming to be world champion. It just doesn't make any sense, and they seem to be okay with it. They're it doesn't bother them that hey, there's another guy on this show running around claiming to be the number one guy on the show.
Well, one of them's claiming to be world champion, and the other one's claiming to be heavyweight champion. Patrick, there's a difference.
But of course, I mean, definitely.
Yeah, but I honestly think part of it is just that I think it just doesn't dawn on them because you know what? For more or less since 2001, there's been 2 world champions in the WWE. There's a brief period where it was unified, before they did this thing with Brock Lesnar only wrestling on SmackDown, so they brought the big gold belt back. So, I mean, but it's been about 10 years of there being 2 championships, and it's kind of like there's always been 2 championships. Why would we make it 1? There's an old saying, to them it's like just the status quo, but if you're stuck in the status quo, that's the opposite of progressing and getting better. And it's when you had 2 rosters, it was somewhat justified because you had that. You had. Well, that's our goal. What we're going for on SmackDown. And that's our goal. What we're going for on Raw. Now, you know what? I'm sorry, gentlemen. Here's the thing. I haven't watched SmackDown in close to a year. I can follow storylines just fine because, for the most part, anything important is going to happen on Raw. And anything that is important.
And all the guys from SmackDown cross over to Raw anyway, and you'll get Raw guys that show up on SmackDown. So there is no brand split. They can say there is, but there's not. It's a fabrication and a lie, and all that thing. I mean, it's meaningless. So
yeah, it's been meaningless for quite some time too. I give them credit, and this is playing devil's advocate to some degree. I vividly remember having an argument with somebody whenever they started this brand split. I guess it was 2002. Arguing until I was red in the face, saying, "Look, it's going to last 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden they're going to be mixing each other on the shows. It's not going to mean anything, and it'll be over." To be fair, they pretty much didn't do that for a long, long time. But ever since they became the Super Mario Super Show, whatever the hell they call themselves now, it's been a mixture all the time now. So,
well, you know what? If they still wanted,
I would say ever since they got ECW, when they brought that back, that was where the mixing really started to get out of hand, and it only got worse from there.
Right, and you know what? If they wanted to go back to having 2 separate shows where there was and no one crossed over, then potentially a World Heavyweight Championship would mean something. But since there is no brand split anymore, there's no reason to have a second championship. I mean, there are so many. I mean, I'll even take it a step further. There's no reason to have a U.S. and an IC champion.
No, I'm going to be honest with you. This guy who holds the U.S. title, I honestly believe if it wasn't so oversaturated right now, he would be way over. But right now, he's just not. And I think having the Intercontinental title does distract from the fact this guy has potential. And
Claudio Castagnoli, he's great. He totally belongs to the WWE.
Is that who plays that character?
Yes.
All right, so I just learned something. Did not realize that was Claudio Castagnoli. Yeah, he is great.
Yeah, and he's real good.
Wait,
you're telling me he's not really French, Russian, Lithuanian, or whatever the frig he's supposed to be?
He's Swedish. Yes. Character is from Switzerland, and he's from Switzerland originally. He's a Swiss immigrant. The gimmick is, though, that because he's from another part of the country, the world, and he's educated and he's smarter than us, he can speak more than one language. And he doesn't have to use much of that.
That's kind of a cool gimmick, though. And I've spoken out against the evil foreigner bit, but him speaking a word in 5 different languages, that's a cool little bit.
Yeah.
It does become. There is a lot of times when, and I don't mean to speak ill of the dead, but like Ludwig Borga, the character was entirely like Futurama. The foreigner. I'm not from here. It's kind of.
Have you ever, if you ever watch Avatar, there's an episode that totally, and I'm talking about the cartoon show Avatar, not the James Cameron movie. There's an episode that totally parodies wrestling, and it's hilarious. So check that out.
South Park did a pretty accurate job, unfortunately, too.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Well, I agree. I mean, the fact that there's an Intercontinental Championship and a U.S. Championship distracts from it, and it's just like, it's like, unify these titles, have an actual mid-card. I mean, it looks like they're going to do a Justin Gabriel versus Antonio Cesaro feud, which what worries me is Gabriel apparently is taking cues from Billy Kidman on how to hit a high-flying move, so he probably will shatter Cesaro's face at some point, but, it's like...
By the way, Gabriel's awful.
Yeah, all the guys you could potentially feud Cesaro with, Zack Ryder, Tyson Kidd, it's like you did matches with those guys. The guy you give the big win to is, I'm from South Africa, and that's my only distinguishing trait besides my crazy-ass hair.
Yeah, and he was trained by our friend here, Kevin Knight, in New Jersey. I mean, he wasn't trained in South Africa. Yeah, he was, Justin Gabriel was trained by Kevin Knight.
Well, interesting.
Sorry.
Well, I don't mean to bash his student, but he's not good.
Oh, he also trained Robbie E.
Well, Kevin,
see, Robbie is not bad. I have my misgivings about the gimmick, but I don't think he's terrible.
No, he's not. No.
I heard this today. Apparently, he wants to train Honey Boo Boo, and I've also heard that the WWE wants Honey Boo Boo for WrestleMania. So
this just in: I'd like to shoot Honey Boo Boo in the face with a dart.
Stole that from me.
Kitty and butter.
Wait, James, you stole that.
If there's actually like a bidding war between TNA and WWE for Honey Boo Boo, I will lose all faith in humanity.
Actually, I said it recently hold on.
Time out. TNA's not involved. It's not TNA. It's a wrestling school that apparently Robbie works at or trains guys out of or has worked with in the past.
He owns a wrestling school.
Yeah, so
is this
I don't know. I don't know if that's Kevin's school or what. For some reason, I thought the guy running it, they said something about a guy named Eric that ran it. So
there is one out here in Phoenix that Robbie E. continually does seminars at. I wonder if it's that too.
Okay. Well, but I'll just say this: South Park nailed it right on the head. The bar has been pulled so far down. James Cameron really does need to go down in a bathysphere, whatever you call it, and pull the fuck back up. The fact that show is on television in any shape and form. And anyone involved with it should be shot in the face, which I made that joke first before James did. Check the Facebook page. And anyone that's watching...
I'm not claiming originality on that, but I did not see your post, but I believe that you probably did say it first. But go ahead.
And anyone that watches that, I'm going to beat you with a fucking clue stick.
No, you know what? I had heard of Honey Boo Boo before the South Park episode. I saw the South Park episode, and I was like, that can't be real. That cannot be real. And then I watched some clips, and I'm like, oh, my God in heaven. They did not, South Park usually exaggerates it to an insane degree, and they did a little bit here, but not as much as I would have liked. Like, they were closer to the truth than I was comfortable with. It was, my God, America, what the hell?
Yeah, America, I've lost faith in your ability to pick television shows ever since I found out that we're perfectly willing to watch a show called John and Kate Plus 8. And I know I'm dating myself here, but Jesus Christ. Does anybody truthfully have the interest in watching two middle-aged twits raising a bunch of 8 little freaking brats? Listen, I have 2 kids in this house. I don't want to hear what 8 kids sound like in a house. And the fact that it's not even a sitcom, it's not even something that's going to have some kind of comedic value. It's just actually watching these boring people who I have never met, never will meet, and hope to never meet, live their lives, and we're enthralled by it. Just scares me to death that we're going to have a Truman Show one of these days real soon because people can no longer decipher what is supposed to be entertaining.
This message brought to you by James Walsh.
I'm James Walsh, and I approve this message.
And I might be going to WrestleMania next year, so if I go to WrestleMania and Honey Boo Boo is fucking running around, I'm going to, I don't know what I'm going to do. Now, that is scraping the bottom of the barrel for celebrity guests. I mean, I thought the Miller Lite Catfight Girl were the worst. This would be a new low.
Did Smokey make smoosh smoosh?
Snooki makes smoosh smoosh.
Smokey makes smoosh smoosh. That was horrible, too.
Yeah, they got Snooki for WrestleMania, so you never know.
Exactly.
And TNA had like 2 or 3 people from the Jersey Shore. And that's another show. I don't get it. Jersey Shore, like America, what's wrong with you?
Well, the good news is that's ending.
I come from New Jersey, guys.
I will be honest, though. The one show I did like that was purely done for, just this is garbage, and I just enjoy the train wreck, To Catch a Predator on Dateline.
Yeah, that was funny. And again, South Park parodied it.
Yeah.
I feel like The Simpsons did it moment, but yeah, they parodied that too.
Yeah. Well, anyway, trying to get back to wrestling, we do have the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. And get ready, ladies and gentlemen, Ryback will be your WWE champion.
I agree with you, but I would not be surprised if Brock Lesnar interfered and cost Ryback the match. I would not be surprised if they went with that.
This is my thought. I honestly think you're going to see a Brock Lesnar versus Ryback match, whether it's for the title or not. And I had that same exact thought because nobody seems to be thinking of the fact that why is this connection with Paul Heyman? What did it possibly bring to Punk? Because Punk can talk, and it doesn't really need somebody like him around. It's just to have that loose association with Lesnar, who is apparently on a freaking hell of a part-time contract. Whatever they're paying him too much.
I think they said he had 30 dates on his contract, and he's only worked, 10 of them. So they're probably saving it for Mania. Like the build-up for Mania, where he'll be on every week.
Yeah, well, you know what, James, part of it I do think is that I do feel like Heyman adds something to Punk, even if he doesn't need a manager. This might get James pissed off.
This is perfect in Bobby Heenan.
Yeah. I mean, it helps to have a manager, and it's someone that can represent Punk in segments, and Punk doesn't have to be on the show all the time. So, I mean, I think it was Ric Flair said something once about J.J. Dillon. He said, J.J. was someone that could talk for the Four Horsemen, and we didn't have to be there at all. It's not that we needed a manager to talk for us, but J.J. could talk for us and help us get extra heat. He could save us for more important shows.
Yeah, and that's a lost art in wrestling, not, we talk about it all the time with Cena. How boring is he when he's on TV every week? He hasn't even wrestled since he got hurt, but he's still boring.
And he still does his tearful goodbyes, and then he's there the next week, and it's like, usually when you say goodbye, you leave.
Yeah, well, he's also a Giants fan, apparently. And we know that's horseshit, but he was in New York.
How was he a Giants fan?
Well, I don't know. Did you see Raw where he was like, "Oh, welcome to the New York Giants. Oh, it's great having you all here." I'm like, I hate you. I hate you.
Yeah. By the way, I got to say this. I was disappointed at Bound for Glory. I don't know if they mentioned it on the show, but the hockey team was there. The football team had just got done getting beaten. They should try to do something for the live crowd of having somebody show up, one of the members of the Arizona Cardinals or something show up for the live crowd. They didn't do any of that. They did have the Coyotes there though, which was kind of cool. But
okay. Well, I mean, most of the hockey teams are not going to have anything to do since their lockout is starting. So, oh well.
Yeah, and you know what? That's just going to kill hockey because, quite honestly, it's people are just going to lose interest. It's not popular enough to sustain itself.
Wait,
it's already on it's already on somewhere nestled between reruns of Little House on the Prairie and an infomercial for hair loss. But they don't need to do anything else to help kill the popularity of the sport.
Well, don't go that far, James. James, don't go that far. It's featured when it airs. It's on NBC during the weekend, and it's on the NBC Sports Network. It's not. Don't go so far to say that it's struggling as on MeTV or something. I mean, I agree with you that this is good, that it's locked out again, but let's try to get back to wrestling, because do you guys want to try to preview the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view?
Sure, let's do that. I think I just read they added a new match, which none of us will care about, but okay, it's Eve, Caitlyn, and Layla for the Divas title.
For the love of
stupid mystery angle. What were you saying, Nick?
I was just like, for the love of God, Eve and Layla never have good matches with one another. You've got the boring dumb girl that does jujitsu that cannot make these moves look realistic because there's a difference between being a fake pro wrestler and a legitimate grappler. You've got Layla, who is basically just Michelle McCool with darker skin. And you got Caitlyn, who has a lot of potential, but is green as a fucking gourd. Oh, God, and this stupid mystery angle. Oh, hey, Eve's evil. Well, duh. Congratulations, you've caught up with everyone that has an IQ above 10.
They did that at WrestleMania this year where they turned her heel on Raw, and then they said, oh, no, I'm with Zack Ryder, and then at WrestleMania they turned her heel again. It made no sense. It's like, all right, so you turned Eve heel even though she was already a heel. That makes so much sense. I'm happy you did that.
Yeah, so I assume Eve wins because they seem to be in love with Eve and they want her to be the face of the Divas division.
Who else is there? I mean, let's be honest. I mean, who else do they have?
If they would ever freaking back up Natalya, they could get something out of her. They have Sarah Del Rey under contract, yet she's apparently only good to train the Barbie doll girls.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm gonna.
That's just what I mean. They've ruined Natalya. I mean, Natalya. I mean, that's just the way it is. Unfortunately.
Yeah. It's
You don't like her farting gimmick?
Oh, they dropped that. Even they knew that they couldn't get more than a few weeks out of that.
Yeah, but that was kind of the sign of the times that she was done, wasn't it?
Yeah. That was that was just. It was like when they started doing that, you're like, yeah. There's no chance she's ever going to be taken seriously again.
Exactly. Well, it's a shame she can work. Hopefully,
I
would say hopefully she'll go to TNA, but apparently they're done actually using any knockouts that don't fall into the three names that they used.
All right. Well,
yeah, they've kind of gotten into that level of just using the same 2 or 3 girls every week. Rather than trying to display some level of depth.
We've had Gail Kim, Tessmacher, and Tara, and that's it.
Okay, yeah, part of that is that certain people are hurt, and they're healing up. Other part of it is just Bruce Pritchard admits he's not a women's wrestling fan.
They bring an audience. They really look. You're talking. I'm going to make this plain. I'm going to be blunt. I hated the Attitude Era partially because of the women. I'm going to be blunt. But they bring a necessary audience. Having good-looking women on the show brings something. And I prefer them be wrestlers than eye candy because at least you can justify a reason for them being there. If they're just eye candy.
I love how a preview for WWE turned into let's nitpick at something with TNA. I mean.
Of course, it's just the natural way of things, but
that's the only thing. By the way, that's one of the very few things TNA has open to nitpick. I mean, there's other things like the need for building up the mid card and the X Division titles again, but the main thing is that just the lack of the Knockouts division right now. That's the main thing that seems glaringly obvious. That and the desperate need to get out of the Impact Zone.
Well, we've been saying that for years, but
Jesus Christ! How do you go from the bounce from the good to TNA?
Enough, hold it. I'm sorry, but we are rehashing arguments we've had repeatedly. Yes, they need to go to the Impact Zone. Done, said, repeated 5 billion times by you on Facebook. Let's move on. Let's try to keep on the track of the discussion we were trying to have about the WWE pay-per-view this Sunday, because that's actually the newsworthy story this week.
Absolutely. Okay, very good.
All right, we have an Intercontinental title match between Kofi Kingston and The Miz. I feel like we've seen this match you talked about we've seen Sheamus and Punk a dozen times. I feel like we've seen this match like 100 times.
Well, we have, and unfortunately, when they did a promo on Raw with Miz, basically saying to Kofi, what have you done you're the most forgettable guy here outside of a few moves and going boom, 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 and winning the tag titles with a series of partners. And unfortunately, he kind of hit the nail right on the head. Kofi is not memorable. He has some cool moves, but there's no reason to stick behind him. I mean, this is a guy that basically is doing the same thing that he was doing the day he showed up in the WWE. There's been no character development. He's won the IC or U.S. title half a dozen times. What is there to say about the guy other than that? I mean, he is just a good worker that has no character. They every once in a while they throw him a bone and he works with a name higher up on the card like Del Rio, or they try to get him going for Hell in a Cell, or not Hell in a Cell, but Money in the Bank, so he can do a cool spot. But that's it. It's like if he wins the title, if he keeps the title here, okay. If he loses the title, okay. It's not going to affect anything at all, really.
No. And that's unfortunately some of the times. I guess he's the new Jericho in that aspect, where he just all he does is win the IC title, and that's going to be his thing for the next decade.
I hate to say this, though, Patrick, with Jericho, you felt like, man, they're really missing the boat on this guy. He'd be a great world champion. With Kofi, it's kind of like, oh, he's peaked here. You need to do something to make him interesting, since he's never going to be able to go up to that next level. And I'm not trying to knock the guy because I dislike him. I like Kofi, but I don't think it's an insult to say some people just aren't meant to be world champion.
Well, that's something that a lot of Internet fans don't seem to get, is that they keep looking for – they judge everybody by the Rock and or Shawn Michaels scale, and that's what they look for in everybody, and they'll, try to justify anybody that could be World Heavyweight Champion. Like, I still have people arguing with me that Jack Swagger should have been World Heavyweight Champion, and, his reign could have worked. I disagree. I don't see it in him at all. And even if he did have it, he certainly wasn't ready by that point, but obviously that reign turned out to be a disaster. And, but yeah, not everybody can be World Heavyweight Champion. I would argue that the number of World Heavyweight Champions should be a very small list. That it should be saved for, like, the elite.
Yeah, well, I'd love to see, like, the numbers on the amount of WWE title changes from, like, the Buddy Rogers till Hulk Hogan's, dropping into Andre, versus the number of reigns from, say, Stone Cold Steve Austin's first reign till now, or a relative period of time. I bet it's 5-1, or some high number like that.
Well, I mean, a lot of that is the change of television. I think that had a lot to do with it as well. Whereas, in the Buddy, in the Bruno Sammartino days, I mean, those eras were mostly just live events. It was mostly about live events. It wasn't about watching television every week and following storylines and stuff. It was just kind of a very arena-based type of thing. But as television becomes more prominent, you have to have more compelling storylines to kind of string everything together. And you can't have the belt on somebody for too long or else the stories get stale. So,
right.
I mean, I fully understand that.
Yeah, I feel like I scared James
but that
off.
doesn't mean anybody should be world champion.
Yeah, right. James, are you still on the line, or did I piss you off so much that you hung up?
No, he didn't hang up because I'm with him. He three-wayed me in, so he's still on the line.
Okay.
He probably just walked away to go take care of his kid.
I really feel like I went off on him there, and I'm sorry about that. Anyway.
Yeah, you can tell when he comes back. Send him a Facebook message. But anyway, that's the Intercontinental title match. Do we have...
Yes.
We have Randy Orton versus Alberto Del Rio.
Yeah, this is Lunesta versus warm milk, because both these things will put you to sleep. They're trying to make it seem it's really
I not possibly care any less about this. I really don't.
I mean, they're trying to make it seem like this big, deal because Del Rio was upset that Randy Orton was put in a number one contenders match when he wasn't, and I'm just thinking, well, first off, Del Rio, you've had like 79 shots at Sheamus. And it's just like, who cares? It's like, they want this, they're trying to have Del Rio go, I'm the new apex predator of the WWE. It's like, so what? It's Randy's nickname. Congratulations. That doesn't really mean a whole lot.
Yeah, this is just boring. Randy Orton and Alberto Del Rio. That's what we got here.
it's going to be just two guys working, very typical WWE style match. You know, they're going to try. They're going to do something. You know, it's going to be like I'm sure Cole will do his normal thing. Oh, in order to come to that place where he hears voices in his head. Oh man, he's really fired up here. Yeah, it's like whatever. You know, yeah. I pick Randy to win because he has a movie coming out.
That's probably all you need, really. So, yeah, there's that. And then we have a tag team title match between Team Hell No and Team Rhodes Scholars, which I will give them credit. I have enjoyed this tag team tournament that they've done, and it is good that they did create some new teams for this thing. It's just a matter of, you know, whether or not they're actually going to stick with it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel, let me say it, they made a great first step having this tournament. I'm glad that they did it. I actually like this whole Rhodes Scholar gimmick. It's a cool name. Two guys who I think have a lot of potential, and Cody and Damian. We'll see what happens. Daniel Bryan will probably do some really cool stuff with this. Kane will be the big slug, as usual. I expect Hell No will win because they like doing these stupid segments with them.
I'll be honest, the segments that they do, like, I typically don't like them because it's just them shouting repetitively at each other, and that's not funny to me. But whenever they are funny, it's actually because of Kane. Like, his deadpan delivery of the Dr. Evil speech, for, you know, examples like that, or him in the diner. Like, typically he's the funny part of the segment, if there are any laughs.
Okay, well, everyone's entitled to their opinion.
Okie dokie, Artichoke. And next we have the World Heavyweight title match of Sheamus versus Big Show. Don't give a shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're trying to make it, they're going like, oh, you know, this is the biggest test of Sheamus' career because he's facing a man that, you know, he can't back up. It's like, all Sheamus wants to do is fight. You can't fight the Big Show. It's like, the hell you can't. The Big Show loses pretty much every big match he's ever been in. I mean, perfect way to sum it up.
Has he won a pay-per-view match this year? Since he turned heel, has he won a pay-per-view match?
No, and, you know, this takes me to my point. When Big Show turned heel, John Cena cut a promo and went, if you don't beat me at this pay-per-view, you're just a big joke. And John Cena was right. He lost, and he's just a big joke. I think he's trying to sell Big Show as this big evil threat, and it's like, okay, he's not. You know, it's like he loses. God, who was the guy back in like the 70s, early 80s that always had like a black glove on? It was just WWF was a jobber to the stars. He would beat all the guys on like the main event tapings, but he'd win. But
Outlaw Ron Bass, is it?
Something like that. He's like Outlaw Ron Bass. You know, that's what he is. And him getting, it's like, I think there's a chance Big Show wins, but I could see them doing that thing where Dolph Ziggler cashes in then, and now it's like, oh man, now Big Show's lost the world title in 40 seconds.
Yeah, Ziggler might cash in here. I wouldn't be surprised if they went ahead and just gave him the belt, which, I guess, if you're going to have a world title, Ziggler's probably the best option for it, because, I mean, my God, I mean, what else? Do we need more of Sheamus and his, bad comedy and horrible, just general presence?
Which, by the way, let me talk about a lack of logic. They keep bringing up that Big Show is still upset that Daniel Bryan cashed in on him. Well, last week on SmackDown, when Sheamus was unconscious, you had Ziggler try to cash in the Money in the Bank on Sheamus, and Big Show prevented this. And my immediate thought is, why would Big Show care? He would probably still get his world title shot, and the way to assure that you don't get cashed in on is for the guy to cash in before you win the title.
Beep, boop.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Logic. It is your friend, WWE. Embrace it. Get to know it.
Now, I have a question. Is this going to be a Hell in a Cell match?
No. Apparently, the only Hell in a Cell this year is going to be Ryback versus Punk.
All right, well, it's good that there's only one, because I thought that this was going to be one, too, and I'm like, does this really need to be a Hell in a Cell match?
It doesn't.
No, I mean, nobody really cares. But that'll lead us into the main event, which will be CM Punk versus Ryback. You know what? If I had any kind of faith in Ryback, this would actually be a really good setup. It's just I just don't like Ryback, and that kind of undermines the whole thing. But you have this guy who went on a huge winning streak, murdered everybody, and now he's going to be locked inside of the cell with the champion who's been, the guy's been champion for over 300 days, and now he can't run away. He has to fight a fair fight inside the cell with this monster. I mean, it's a perfect setup. It's just that I'm not excited about Ryback.
It's a perfect setup, and the character and the idea is fine. I mean, for everyone that's going, well, he's a Goldberg ripoff. The guy goes on a long winning streak and can't be beat is an old trick. The Ultimate Warrior did it. Nikita Koloff did it. So it's not anything new. The problem is Ryback is not the guy that should be in the main event spot. I mean, there's something not there that's going to make this match. I mean, Punk's going to have his working boots on and really do everything he can, and even I don't think he can get a good match out of Ryback.
Well, the matches Ryback does have on TV, I mean, they're so formulaic, and I feel like I'm watching the same match every single time, and he doesn't do the cool moves that Goldberg does. He doesn't creatively murder people. He's just got this one clothesline. He'll maybe do one other move, and then he'll do that stupid Samoan drop, which really doesn't look that good, quite honestly, and they'll march around the ring, and that's it. I mean, that's the match. You've seen one Ryback match, you've seen them all, unless you want to count the Tyson. The most different match I've seen him have was the Tensai match, and that's because it just blew up in his face.
Yeah, because he couldn't lift him.
Yeah, exactly. And that was like, wow, that was bad. But Warrior had that problem with his matches, where literally his squash matches were just, 3 clotheslines, gorilla press, and the big splash, and then he'd run around. He'd run out to the ring, and he'd run out to the ring. He'd run back to the dressing room, and his match was over. But where Warrior got away with that is that at least he was cool and charismatic, and he had this really energetic presence and colorful character. Ryback doesn't have that. All Ryback has to me is a cool catchphrase, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I'll admit I'm biased. I don't think it's that cool of a catchphrase. Maybe it's one of those things that would have to grow on me a little bit, but it's like, I don't know. I mean, that's the one thing that gets over for him. It's the feed me more chance. I mean, I'll give him credit that he is over, but I feel like the balloon's going to come out, the air's going to come out of the balloon because, like you said, he's a very formulaic guy. Unless they do a whole lot and really stretch out matches, and they just do a 3-minute main event, which is a huge risk, which I don't think you can do really for the most part, without the crowd crapping on it. I just feel like he's going to be in a longer match than he's going to be ready for. It's like, what can, I feel like the crowd's going to try him, and I keep using this comparison because I think it's going to happen. It's the Bobby Lashley beats Big Show at December to Dismember.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's
fiasco, yeah.
It's like, WWE is like, this is our chosen one. You will love him. And the fans are saying, let's go Big Show. Let's go Big Show. And
I remember when they were chanting, where's our refunds? That was my favorite one.
And apparently, when Rob Van Dam got eliminated first, his wife started a TNA chant.
That's really funny.
Well, I think the speculation was Rob's contract was up and he was out of there anyway, so it's like, yeah. And I kind of get the sense that his wife is one of those people that likes to agitate people anyway. So.
No, I think Rob Van Dam was there for at least another year.
Yeah. I think though his contract. I think if I remember this correctly, they did it with where Lashley won the belt, and that was around the same time Vince showed up on ECW and then eventually won the belt from Lashley because they did that whole Battle of the Billionaires. I think Rob Van Dam, he had one match with Vince, and then he was gone. He got written out by being kicked in the head by Orton. That's summer. So, but I think almost it was one of those things. Almost everyone had heard that his contract was coming due, and that there was a good chance he was at least going to take a break.
Yeah. That's Hell in a Cell. I don't know. I mean, there's so many question marks surrounding the Punk Ryback main event, and to be honest, some of it is interesting. It's like, all right, are they going to keep Ryback's momentum going, or are they going to continue the really long reign for CM Punk? I don't know. It's an interesting setup, like I said, but I'm also just fearful that it's going to be a disaster because Ryback is just, I just don't have any faith in him as a performer.
Well, you know what it kind of is? It's kind of like a couple of years ago when the Detroit Lions entered Week 16, 0-15, and you wanted to watch that game just to see would they be the first team to lose every game in the regular season. There is kind of that morbid curiosity going on here because it's like, this could be one of those that just goes down in internet infamy. I mean, Botchamania can get a lot of. I
think putting it in Hell in a Cell is, I don't know if that's a good fit either because that's going to raise expectations, I think. And because just of the nature of Hell in a Cell, and I don't know if that's a good fit either.
Yeah, well, people need to understand this. The reason Undertaker was the perfect guy for that match originally is when Undertaker was younger and was, and people don't want to talk about how great the Undertaker is now. This Undertaker is a slap in the face to the Undertaker I remember. He was so athletic for a big guy, so amazing. And, you had originally Shawn Michaels who was willing to do anything with him in there, and you had Mick Foley who's fucking nuts. I don't ever expect him to go to that level again. That was the perfect mix for a Hell in a Cell. Punk, I think, will be willing to try to do anything to get this guy over because, people would say what they want about Punk, but I think for the most part he is a company guy, and he has a real pride in his work. He's old school like that, where it doesn't matter if I'm in there with John Cena, it doesn't matter if I'm in there with Daniel Bryan, it doesn't matter if I'm in there with, Ryback. I want to have the best match on the card. I want to, give the people their money's worth. That's going to be there, but it's just like, I just don't think Ryback's going to have it because, I think it's like you keep saying, he has a handful of moves. I mean, we talk a lot about John Cena, the 5 moves of doom. Ryback only has the 3 moves of doom.
Yeah, and it's like, for this to really work, a Punk is going to sell for him like a motherfucker. And I think that's what you're probably going to see.
Right.
A lot of that.
And look, we rip on Cena. We rip on Cena. And the thing is, yes, his offensive arsenal is the 5 moves of doom. But he is willing, being fair, he is willing to do things that we have not seen, and I would not expect to see, especially not at this stage in the game, Ryback do. I don't expect Ryback to take certain spots, like anything particularly offensive. I don't expect him to take, like table spots that Cena's taken, like shots to the top rope throws. I don't expect to see him take them. It's just not in his arsenal. It might not be the style of worker that he is. And in that sense, in this expectation that we have of our workers of this day and age, that kind of has to be something they're able, willing, and able to pull off. And I just don't know if this guy's going to have it in that sense. I do disagree with you guys partially. I do think he's over. However, I think even if you look at his match on Monday with The Miz, once it went a few seconds, and he didn't spend a lot of time in there with The Miz, he pretty much ran over him. Once it went a few seconds, it did get quiet. And that's my concern. If this match goes 20 minutes, it's going to get quiet.
Well, Jay, that's my thing, is that he hasn't worked a match over, and a lot of people said the same thing about Goldberg before he went out there for that match with DDP at Halloween Havoc, but he's never worked a long match, and Goldberg, even in his short matches, at least they were exciting. His are boring. I'm sorry, Ryback's are just, his short matches, his really, really short matches are boring, and I don't know if I want to see that stretched out for even 10 or 12 minutes.
It's really. I said this before, Nick, and I'll say it again.
I do think he's in good hands with Punk. I do want to throw that out there at least.
It is, but don't forget, the Renegade also wrestled Arn Anderson a bunch of times, and there's only so much a great worker can do without the fans just seeing talent levels and seeing replicas and seeing that it's just not the same, not what they're used to seeing, not what the persona is supposed to be. We've seen Goldberg. It's been done right, it's been done, but it is done. We saw the Ultimate Warrior at that point, and the Renegade wasn't it. And no matter how good Arn Anderson is, and I've been on record many times saying Arn is better than Flair, he couldn't make the crowd cheer for him, and eventually the crowd ended up cheering for Arn in those matches. I fear that we could see the same thing on Sunday.
James, I actually think you're in agreement with us. That's what we're all saying, is that the fans will turn on him. I mean, and it's just, now who knows? You know what? If we want to be fair here, maybe this guy surprises us all, and the reason he hasn't been able to show off is that the WWE has said, no, less is more. Don't do that. We want people to think that you can only do a couple moves. And this will be where he really turns it on. That said, from what I've seen of him in FCW and when he was on NXT, I don't see a whole lot more than what we're getting from this guy. It's like, maybe I'll be wrong.
People don't remember that, but he was in Nexus.
Yeah, he was a cowboy, Skip Sheffield.
Yeah.
Which, yeah. So, maybe we're wrong, and maybe this guy will stun us all, but it's such a huge risk to take, and I do feel like because they're putting him in here, it's going to be one of those situations where they're going to want to have it be I think they're going to want to keep his momentum going. So I do feel like he's going to win the title, and it's going to be crickets, or worse, people will boo this guy because it's like James said, it's the Renegade.
Yeah, it's even on Raw this weekend, we talk about how over he is, and the Feed Me More chants, you do hear them, but every now and then you hear those Goldberg chants too. So, the potential's there for that disaster to take place.
Well, here's my question. Since he's going to be main eventing a pay-per-view, will he finally get pyro?
I think that's a very good question. I'd like to see him actually get pyro, because they set off the sound effects, so you might as well have the pyro to go with it.
Which I did not notice that until Patrick said something, and I'm like, my God, they do just set off a sound effect. It's like, and no one points it out but me, but I'm like, that is so, odd and so B-level production. I mean, that's kind of lame, and you don't expect that from the WWE. It almost sounds like, honestly, like the stage producer said, "Shit, I don't want to." Said, "Oh no, I feel lazy tonight. I'm not gonna set up anymore." So they just said, "Okay, we'll set up a sound effect," and no one changed it. It's like, oh God. So yeah, that's Hell in a Cell. It's got some matches that we're not really all that interested in. It's got a match that we're kind of interested in, but it might kind of be for morbid curiosity.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It could be, it could be a major hit or a major miss. We'll never know. Or we'll know after the Sunday. But it's it is. I'll give WWE credit for that. It is a huge talking point. It is very interesting on paper, at least. It's but we just don't know how it's going to turn out.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see, and we'll be here to talk about it next week. I guess unless there's anything else you can think of, Patrick, I think we're done.
Okay, no, I'm done. James, are you still with us? No, James is gone. All right, well, thank you to everybody for listening to us tonight. Thank you to James Walsh for setting this up. Thank you to Nick for having this discussion with me. And once again, thank you everybody for listening, and we will be back for more here at Interactive Wrestling Radio at WrestlingEpicenter.com. Until then, I'm Patrick Kelly saying good night, everybody.